Hi, my name's Ben. You're here at Pixel Portable, the home of portable gaming and handheld gaming. It's great to have you here. Let's get into today's video. We are now rolling into autumn, and that means that the leaves are falling off the trees, the days are going to get shorter, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. As anyone who's lived in the Northern Hemisphere knows, that means hot apple pies, that means sitting next to a window with a mug of coffee while the rain splatters on it, looking out whimsically and being all cozy. And of course, that means that we're going to be rolling into those cozy vibes. So I figured I'm going to share with you my top picks for each official handheld for cozy games. So wrap up in your favorite blanket, look out the window, look at the rain, have a hot chocolate or a coffee or whatever it is that you like, and let's get cozy. Let's get real cozy.
Pixel.
Let's start off with the original Game Boy, the original fat Game Boy. We'll start with that. My pick for the original Game Boy for a cozy title would be Kirby's Dream Land. With Kirby's Dream Land, there's a lot going on for it, really. I mean, the original Game Boy doesn't have a lot of long games with a big variety, but Kirby's Dream Land has that. It's got fantastic soundtrack, really simple but addictive platforming and gameplay where you can suck in enemies, spit them out, do damage. This is pre-Kirby getting abilities, but it's still really, really good. Plenty of levels to keep you going, and I think you'll find that this is quite a cozy game to play. You'll enjoy this. I know I certainly enjoyed it when I was a kid and got the opportunity to play it. So yeah, Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy. That's my Game Boy pick. So let's see what you think. If you think I got the wrong Game Boy pick something else. Put it in the comments. Let me know.
Pixel.
So we're on to Game Boy Color. And I had a big think about this one. There's plenty of titles that would actually be incredibly cozy to play in the right scenario and right setting. But I actually opted to go for something a bit obvious. And I've chosen Pokemon Crystal. Now, the reason I've chosen Pokemon Crystal is because it's a slow-paced game, which, cozy games tend to have to be. And it has a lot of elements that are nostalgic to me, but also that just are interesting from a gameplay perspective. You've got a day and night system that's actually sort of day and night. You play this in the evening, the game's dark too, the Pokemon have changed, and the cold evening outside has become a bit relatable in-game. The radio, you've got all the different new Pokemon, you've got a very good story, nice graphics, good sound. So yeah, I think that, and it's a long burner too, it's not a game you're just going to pick up and finish really quickly. It's one that you can eke out like a good book, playing it a chapter at a time. And I think that's a good position for a cozy game to be in. So yeah, Pokemon Crystal for the Game Boy Color. Next up, we have the Game Boy Advance. I'm using here my Game Boy Advance SP. This took me a while. I wasn't entirely sure. There's so many on the Game Boy Advance that are great picks. After all of it, I thought about it and I thought there's nothing more cozy than being shrunk and being a tiny person in the giant foliage of your garden or something. And that brings me to Zelda Minish Cap. I think from the great graphics, the nice music, the slow but puzzly pace of the game, and the thematics of the game, and your cool talking hat, it's a really cozy game, and it's got a lot going for it. And again, it's another slow burner. You're not going to finish it quickly, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Pixel.
So next is DS, and there's a lot on the DS. I had a thought about it, and we've kind of gone back full circle to the original Game Boy. There isn't anything more cozy than Kirby Superstar Ultra, which is a upgraded version of the SNES version of Kirby Superstar. And this has so many little games in, so many things to keep you busy, and it's got great gameplay. I just really love it. I love the fact that there's multiple game modes, and the game itself is addictive, cute, charming, will make you smile like all Kirby games do. Yeah, it's a good use of your time, I think. A good way to just detox the brain, I guess. When thinking about the PSP, I'm holding mine right here, but when thinking about the PSP, there were a lot of options. I guess that just goes to show that handheld consoles have really thought through and have really sort of dialed in making good, cozy games, or games that I would find cozy anyway. And for me, it was actually Final Fantasy I. I'd played the Game Boy Advance version beforehand, and that is really good. But the PSP one with the extra content at the end is even better. A common complaint that people have about the first Final Fantasy game is that it doesn't have very deep story. It's not got loads of breadth. You kind of fumble your way through the story, and there isn't a lot of main story. A lot of it is just exploring and interacting with the world. But that is kind of the reason why I think it's cozy. You're not saddled with hundreds of side quests or this list of things that you need to do. You're just kind of existing and going around doing your thing. And I think that actually makes a better game for it, and also a little bit cozy. So yeah, I'm going to pick Final Fantasy I for the PSP. Again, if you've got any disagreements with my selections, or you think that maybe I just don't know about a certain game that you think is particularly cozy, leave me a comment in the comments below, and I'll have a look.
Pixel.
So I'm recording this the 24th of September in 2024, and I was not going to add this game for the 3DS. This is a 2DS XL, but same thing. But I have my choice for this, but it was actually going to be for the Switch. However, the game has now been indefinitely delayed for Switch, and you may be a bit confused right now. But there's a game that I love called Fantasy Life, and that came out on the 3DS. Recently, it was getting a remaster with extra content, but that has, for some strange reason, now been put indefinitely on hold. I can't suggest it for Switch anymore, so I had to switch up my choices. For the 3DS, I'm picking Fantasy Life. What is Fantasy Life, and why should you play it? It's a game where you get to pick between, I can't remember how many classes there are. I think there might be about 15 classes or something like that. And each class has things it can and can't do, and crafting and all these other things. So for example, if you play as the carpenter, you can take wood and you can do the crafting mini games to build furniture for your houses. But if you play as the logger, you can chop down the trees to produce the wood in order to create the furniture. You can swap between job classes at any point whenever you want to, and it tracks and remembers the levels and everything you've got in it. So you might think, well, that sounds really complicated. I'm constantly having to switch jobs and do all these different things. And yeah, that would be more awkward if you're by yourself, but this game really excels in co-op multiplayer. And that's when you can have up to 4 people all running around in the same world with the same objectives, all helping each other out. So when I played this with my partner, and she would take on some complementing roles, and I'd take on others. So I was a miner and a blacksmith, so I would mine the ore, and then I would turn the ore into weapons and armor. And she would hunt animals and turn animals into food, because she was a hunter and a cook. That's just an example of like 2 of the jobs that we both took each. So we made sure to take jobs that complemented each other so that we could, do these things. And you might think, well, why bother crafting? Well, crafted food is better than any other food you're going to get. And the coolest thing about the game is, if you're really good at doing the mini games, then you make better items. So the better you are at the mini games, whether it be crafting furniture, making armor, cooking food, the better the result is from that item. And that means that the item is more valuable to other players and to yourself. But yeah, it's a game that's got not a crazy story, but it has a lot of side quests and things to do. So yeah, take a look at that. Fantasy Life for the 3DS.
Pixel.
We're now onto the PlayStation Vita. I've got my here. And I haven't actually explored a huge amount of PlayStation Vita games. But one thing I did find out that does exist on the Vita is one of the most cozy games ever made, and that is... I'm not sure if you've ever played it or not, but you've likely seen memes or likely maybe know of it. But Undertale is essentially a very simple RPG with a very good story. And it has an interesting set of battle mechanics that you can use or not use. That will make sense once you've played it. And it's a great game with a good feel, good ending, and a nice range of difficulty as well. So if you've not played Undertale because you've seen crazy rabid Undertale fans, I can understand that. But it is super cozy, and you absolutely should give it a go. Worst case scenario, just try it for an hour. If you don't like it, that's fine. It's not your thing. But give it a go, because it is really good.
Pixel.
So now we're on to the Nintendo Switch. I have a Switch Lite. I don't have the big Switches. This is the one that I've had for a long time. But yes, the Nintendo Switch. There was a game that came out a few years back that I really, really enjoyed. I played it on PC, but it is now on Switch. And that game was a game that I made a video of back when I was in Indonesia, which is the home country of where the game was developed. And that game is Coffee Talk. Now, I did a whole video on that. I'll put the link above here. Make sure to go check that out if you are interested in some detail on Coffee Talk. But essentially, it's more closer akin to being a visual novel than it is a game. There are some light gameplay elements in it, but not many. It's mostly story. It's very story heavy, and it's about very relatable everyday lives of people, but in a fantasy setting. In a setting set where it's kind of like a futuristic Seattle, but orcs and elves and other races exist, and you run and own a coffee shop, and you hear these customers, and you hear their conversations and make them their drinks, and sometimes you have to guess what they might want, etc. But it is a really, really well thought out, it's a really in-depth game when it comes to story. And I think that if you're someone that really likes to read but wants a little bit more pizzazz to your reading, and wants some nice visuals to accompany that, and a little bit of gameplay, then I would highly recommend Coffee Talk to anyone. You really should give it a try.
Pixel.
And then we're on the last handheld that I own, going through the official handhelds line, and that is the Steamdeck. For the Steamdeck, there was really only one choice, and that is, in my opinion, the most cozy game that's ever been made. And that game is Stardew Valley. I'm sure you've seen Stardew Valley on hundreds of lists of cozy games, but there's a reason why it's there. And there's a reason why so many companies have tried to ride the coattails of Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is what happens when one person has a unified direction and idea for a game. Now, if you look at a game like Owlboy, which is another incredible game, these are games that have one vision and an enormous amount of work put into them to get them to where they are. And the same is true with Stardew Valley. You have a small town and a little farm, and that's basically the breadth of the game. There's a cave that you can go in and fight monsters, but most of your interactions and work and everything take place within your farm. And you're a farmer. You grow crops and you sell those crops to get nicer things, to grow crops, etc. But where the game really excels is in its interpersonal relationships that you have as the farmer with the people of the town. And you can marry characters just like you can in the Harvest Moon games, which were the original driving point for the creation of Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley was made by Eric Barone, I think his surname is, and he played and loved Harvest Moon games just like I do. And in fact, Harvest Moon games almost made it into the Game Boy Color section of this video. But he played it and he thought, I really want to make the perfect Harvest Moon for me. And that's what he did. He made his favorite Harvest Moon game, and everyone loves it. But a lot of games try to follow suit, and a lot fail. And the reason they fail is because they either don't focus enough on the farming, or they don't understand that Stardew Valley's success isn't just because it's a farming game. It's also because it's a game where you interact with other people and you have these relatable backstories for all the different characters. And games like that are pretty deep, you know? You've got characters like Shane, who's an alcoholic. So yeah, the long and short of all that is essentially Stardew Valley is the most cozy game to me. I really enjoyed things like Animal Crossing and other games that people think are more cozy. And I mean, cozy is subjective, right? We're all going to have our own ideas on what is cozy and what isn't. But for that reason, I think that you should definitely throw in the comments a bunch of your cozy game suggestions, because I'd love to see them. I'd love to give some of them a try and maybe, you know, find a new favorite cozy game. Who knows? So I hope you enjoyed my cozy picks for different handheld devices, and thank you ever so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if that's your kind of thing, and if you like the content, so you can see more of it. And I hope I see you in the next one. Bye.